The day started like any other, a blur of morning meetings, deadlines, and a steady rhythm of emails. When my boss called an unexpected all-hands meeting that afternoon, I braced myself for more work. But instead, he delivered news that felt like a gift: the project deadline had been postponed. For the first time in months, I had a free afternoon. "Go home, spend time with your families," he said, looking around the room. I barely heard the rest of his sentence, already picturing the look of surprise on Sarah's face when I walked through the door early. The drive home was a surreal blend of freedom and excitement. I decided against calling or texting her, wanting to make the moment a genuine surprise. I thought about picking up her favorite flowers, maybe planning a spontaneous dinner. We'd been together for 8 years, and I wanted to remind us both, of the spark we once had. But as I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. A sleek black sedan was parked outside. I didn't recognize it. My first thought was that Sarah had a friend over, maybe from her yoga class, or that one of her colleagues had stopped by. I walked up to the door and opened it quietly, taking in the familiar comfort of home, the scent of her lavender candles, the faint hum of the dishwasher. But there was a stillness, an unnatural silence. The only sound was a faint rustling upstairs, followed by soft laughter that didn't belong to me. Curiosity and confusion gnawed at me as I took slow, measured steps up the stairs, my hand brushing along the banister. My heart started pounding, louder with every step, my breath catching as I approached our bedroom door. It was open just a crack, enough to glimpse shadows moving inside. I pushed the door open just an inch further, barely daring to breathe. There, illuminated by the afternoon light streaming through our window, was Sarah, laughing in a way I hadn't heard in years, genuine, uninhibited. She was in the arms of another man, his face turned away from me as they whispered to each other, lost in a moment that should have been mine. I don't remember making a sound, but the man must have sensed something because he looked up, catching my eye. His face turned from laughter to horror in an instant. Sarah followed his gaze, and the color drained from her face when she saw me standing there, frozen in shock and betrayal. "John," she gasped, pulling herself away from him. She scrambled off the bed, hands outstretched as if she could physically erase what I'd just seen. "John, it's not what you think." My voice was cold, harder than I'd ever heard it. "Oh, really? Then explain it to me, Sarah. Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty clear." She hesitated, her lips trembling. I could see her mind racing, searching for words to bridge the gulf that had just opened between us. The man beside her shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I didn't plan this," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "It just happened. I don't know how to explain it. Please, John, you have to believe me." "Believe you?" I scoffed, my voice sharper than I'd intended. "Sarah, I come home to surprise you, and this is what I find. Our bed, our home, and you with him." The man, clearly uncomfortable, finally spoke up, his voice strained. "Look, maybe I should go. This isn't." "I didn't mean to." "No," I cut him off, my eyes narrowing. "You don't get to walk away that easily. You both did this, knowing full well what it meant." Sarah took a step closer, her hand reaching for mine. I pulled back, recoiling from her touch like it burned. "Please, John," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I've been so confused. Things haven't been the same between us. It was a mistake, I swear, a mistake." I repeated, my voice filled with disbelief. "A mistake is forgetting to lock the door or leaving the oven on. What you did. That's not a mistake, Sarah. That's a choice." Her voice cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know, and I'm sorry. Please, if you just let me explain." "Explain?" I shook my head, anger simmering under the surface. What explanation could possibly make this right? Make me understand how you could do this to us. She looked at me, her face crumpled in a way I'd never seen before. "John, please. I still love you. this just got out of hand. It was a one-time thing. I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. You think that makes it better? That it was a one-time thing? As if that erases everything you just destroyed. The man, still standing awkwardly to the side, cleared his throat. I think I should go now. His words were hesitant, almost pleading, but I ignored him. Turning back to Sarah, I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I gave you everything. Years of my life, my trust, my heart. And this is what you do with it. What you do with us. She was sobbing now, but it barely registered. My world had fractured in that moment, and I felt like a stranger in my own life. Steeling myself, I turned toward the door, unwilling to let her see how deeply she'd wounded me. John, please, she whispered, her voice breaking as I left. Without another word, I walked down the stairs and out of the house, feeling the weight of her betrayal settle over me. I climbed into my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, forcing myself to breathe through the rage and heartbreak swirling inside. As I drove away, I knew one thing for sure, I would never see her the same way again. The drive from our house felt like a lifetime. I stared blankly at the road, my mind racing with the images I'd just witnessed. My heart thudded painfully against my chest, and a mixture of anger and sadness churned in my stomach like a storm. I pulled over at a small park, gripping the steering wheel, trying to gather my thoughts. What was I supposed to do? I felt like I had entered an alternate reality where the woman I loved was now a stranger, one who had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. After what felt like an eternity, I finally steeled myself and drove back home, knowing I had to confront Sarah. I needed answers, and I needed to hear them from her own lips, even if the thought of it made my stomach turn. When I entered the house, everything felt the same, the lavender candles flickering in their holders, the pictures of us smiling from the walls, but now it was tainted, each detail mocking me with the memory of what had just happened. I found her in the living room, seated on the couch, her head buried in her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were red and swollen, but I felt no pity for her. John, she said softly, voice shaking. I'm so glad you're back. I crossed my arms, the sight of her vulnerability sparking a flame of anger in me. Glad? Really? You think I'm glad to see you like this? After what I just walked in on, please, just let me explain, she pleaded, rising from the couch and taking a step toward me. I never wanted you to find out like this. It was a mistake, a stupid, reckless mistake. Reckless? I echoed, incredulity flooding my voice. You think that's all this is? A little mistake. This was a choice, Sarah. You made the choice to be with him, to betray me. You didn't think about me, about us, in that moment. I know. But you have to understand how lost I've felt lately, she insisted, her hands trembling. Things have been different between us for so long. I thought we could fix it, but instead, I made everything worse. I'm so sorry. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the swirling emotions. You think saying you're sorry is enough? Do you think that justifies what you did? What about the vows we made? The promises? John, I never meant to hurt you. You have to believe me, she begged, desperation creeping into her voice. I love you. I thought it was just a phase, a moment of weakness, but it spiraled out of control. Her words grated against me, and I couldn't hold back any longer. A moment of weakness? And how long was this moment? How many times did you let it happen? What else have you kept from me? I swear, it was only once, she cried, her voice breaking. Please, don't think of me like that. You're my husband. I love you. I've always loved you, but you still chose him. I shot back, anger boiling over. You chose to be with someone else instead of working on our relationship. You didn't even try to talk to me about what was wrong. Instead, you went and, I took a moment, my breath hitching. You went and betrayed everything we built together. John, I was scared. I didn't know how to talk to you about it. I thought I could find some clarity, and I ended up making a horrible mistake. I thought I could fix it afterward. She stepped closer, her eyes pleading for understanding. Please, you have to forgive me. I shook my head, the idea of forgiveness feeling like an impossibility. Forgiveness? Do you really think it's that simple? How can I trust you again after this? After what you've done, I'll do anything to make it right, she pleaded. I'll go to counseling, I'll change, just please don't leave me. I can't lose you, John. I love you. Her words echoed in my mind, but they felt hollow, insincere. You say you love me, but your actions tell a different story. You don't just get to erase this, Sarah. It's not that easy. A moment of silence stretched between us, thick with tension and unspoken words. I could see the fear in her eyes, the reality of what she'd done sinking in. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back, unwilling to let her touch me. Please, just think about this, she said softly, tears streaming down her cheeks. I know I've made mistakes, but I need you. We can fix this together. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But all I felt was a void where trust used to reside. Fix this. I repeated, incredulity rising in my voice. You don't just fix a broken vase by gluing it back together, Sarah. It's forever changed. John, she whispered, her voice cracking. I need time, I said finally, my voice cold. I can't even look at you right now. I don't know if I'll ever be able to again. With that, I turned and walked out, leaving her standing there, tears streaming down her face. I felt like I was breaking apart, but a sense of determination began to take root. I wouldn't let her continue to manipulate the narrative. I wouldn't let this be the end of my story. As I stepped out into the cool night air, a plan started to form in my mind. I would confront her not just for me, but for everyone she had deceived, everyone she would hurt if I stayed silent. I would expose her betrayal, and I would do it in a way that made her understand the depth of the damage she'd caused, not just to me, but to herself. The days that followed were a blur of anger and confusion. I could hardly concentrate at work, my mind racing back to the moment I'd discovered Sarah's betrayal. I felt like I was walking through life in a fog, each mundane task weighing me down like a stone in my stomach. But beneath that fog, a fire ignited, a desire for revenge, to expose Sarah for who she really was. One evening, after another fruitless day at the office, I found myself at a bar with Greg, my oldest friend and confidant. I needed someone to vent to, someone who could help me make sense of the chaos swirling in my mind. John, you're looking rough, Greg said as I slid into the booth across from him, pouring myself a whiskey. You've got to talk to me. What's going on? I took a deep breath, my heart racing at the memory of Sarah's face. It's about Sarah. She cheated on me, Greg. Caught her in our bed with another guy. Greg's expression shifted from concern to disbelief. No way. Are you serious? Dead serious, I replied, anger bubbling up again. I thought I knew her, but I guess I was wrong. What a jerk, he said, shaking his head. How are you holding up? I'm not, I snapped, then took a long gulp of whiskey, letting the burn soothe my nerves. I don't know what to do. I can't just let this go. She needs to pay for what she did. I want to expose her for what she really is. Expose her? What do you mean? Greg leaned forward, interest piqued. I leaned back in the booth, gathering my thoughts. I want to gather evidence, make sure everyone knows what she's done. Her family, her friends, everyone should know she's a liar and a cheat. I just can't let her pretend everything is fine. Greg's brow furrowed as he considered my words. That's a dangerous path, man. You sure you want to go down that road? It's not about revenge for the sake of revenge. It's about showing the truth. I deserve that. I need people to know what kind of person she is, I said, the anger simmering just below the surface. Greg nodded slowly. All right, I'm in. But what's the plan? Over the next few hours, we brainstormed together, fueled by whiskey and determination. Greg suggested ways to gather evidence, text messages, photos, anything that could paint a clear picture of Sarah's betrayal. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through our shared photos, reminders of happier times that now felt tainted. Look, I said, showing him a picture of Sarah and me at a beach vacation. This was last summer. And now look at what she's done. Greg leaned over, his face serious. You need to document everything. If you have proof, it'll hit harder when you show it to her family and friends. They need to see the real her. I nodded, a plan taking shape. And I want to confront her lover, too. I need him to understand the mess he's made and how much it's going to blow up in his face. Greg raised an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? I found out where he works. It's a tech company downtown. I could show up, have a little chat. Let him know I'm aware of everything, I said, a grim satisfaction growing within me. That could get messy, but I like it. If you can rattle him, it might make him think twice about what he's done. But you've got to be careful. You don't want to do anything that could come back to haunt you. Yeah, I know, I said, the seriousness of the situation settling in. I'll keep it controlled. Just a conversation. But I want to make sure he understands that this isn't just about me, he's involved in this too. Okay, so let's outline what you need, Greg suggested. Get the evidence, confront the guy, and then we can plan how to break the news to her family and friends. The thought of Sarah's family discovering her betrayal sent a thrill through me. I wanted them to see her for who she really was. I'll start collecting everything I can find. And once I've got enough, we'll set a date for the big reveal. Count me in, man. I'll help however I can, Greg said, a fire igniting in his eyes. Let's make sure they feel the weight of what they've done. That night, I returned home with a sense of purpose that had been absent since my discovery. I began sifting through our shared accounts, looking for anything that could serve as proof, texts, photos, social media messages. I was determined to piece together the story of Sarah's betrayal. Hours turned into days, and I became more methodical. I created a folder on my computer, labeling it Evidence. I felt like a detective in my own life, combing through details, gathering snippets of conversations, and creating a timeline. Every new piece of information felt like ammunition, fueling my resolve. One evening, I found a series of texts from the stranger, filled with flirtation and hints of intimacy. My heart raced as I captured screenshots, the realization sinking in that I was getting closer to my goal. As I sat at my desk, the blue light of the screen illuminating my face, Greg's voice echoed in my mind. You've got to be careful. Don't lose yourself in this anger. I took a moment to breathe, reminding myself that this was about more than just revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity. I glanced at a picture of Sarah and me on the wall, a reminder of the love we once shared, now shattered by her choices. Determined, I picked up my phone and called Greg. I'm ready to confront her lover. Let's set it up. All right, what do you want to do? He asked, his voice steady. I'll show up at his workplace tomorrow. I want him to feel the heat, I replied, adrenaline coursing through me. And after that, we can start planning how to reveal everything to Sarah's family and friends. Let's do this, Greg said, his tone unwavering. As I hung up the phone, a sense of liberation washed over me. I was taking control of my narrative, determined to show Sarah and her lover the consequences of their choices. Revenge was a path I never thought I'd take, but in this moment, it felt like the only way to regain my power. The day of the confrontation arrived with an intensity that had my heart racing from the moment I woke up. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Today was the day I would confront Sarah's lover and, ultimately, reveal her betrayal to everyone she cared about. I spent the morning pacing my apartment, rehearsing what I would say. The sting of betrayal coursed through me, a constant reminder of how I had been wronged. I felt the weight of my plan like a heavy cloak, both exhilarating and terrifying. Greg arrived at my place just after noon, looking more confident than I felt. Ready for this? He asked, his voice steady as he clapped a hand on my shoulder. I think so, I replied, my stomach twisting with nerves. But what if he doesn't take me seriously? What if he thinks I'm bluffing? Greg shook his head. You can't think like that. You have the evidence. You have every right to confront him. Just stay calm, speak your truth, and remember why you're doing this. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of the anger and betrayal that fueled my resolve. You're right. It's time he knows what he's gotten himself into. We made our way to the tech company where Sarah's lover worked, the anticipation building with every passing minute. The sleek glass building loomed before us, a testament to the kind of life he led while I had been left in the dark. Once inside, the sterile office environment contrasted sharply with the storm brewing inside me. I found the reception desk and asked for him, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. "Can I help you?" the receptionist said, her expression curious but polite. "I need to speak to a guy named Mark Peterson," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. "It's urgent." After a brief wait, I was escorted to a conference room, and moments later, Mark walked in. He was younger than I expected, with an easy smile that faltered as he caught sight of me. "Can I help you?" he asked, confusion flickering across his face. "Yeah, we need to talk," I said, my voice low and steady. "Who are you?" he asked, glancing at Greg, who stood silently beside me. "John," I replied, leveling my gaze at him. "I'm Sarah's husband." Mark's face paled, the bravado fading. "What do you want?" I could feel the tension in the room thickening, a palpable energy crackling in the air. "I want you to understand the gravity of what you've done," I said, stepping forward. "You think this was just some fling? Some fun little secret? You've torn apart my life, and I won't let you walk away from this unscathed." "I didn't know you were married," he stammered, backpedaling slightly. I thought it was just casual." "It didn't mean anything." "Casual?" I scoffed, incredulity washing over me. "It didn't mean anything to you, but it meant everything to me. You knew she was with someone, you just didn't care. This isn't just a casual affair, this is my wife you're talking about." He glanced nervously at Greg, who remained silent but imposing. "Look, man, I didn't intend for it to happen. It was a mistake. We got caught up in the moment." "A mistake," I echoed, the bitterness lacing my words. "That's what Sarah called it too. But you don't just get caught up in the moment with someone else's wife. You made a choice, just like she did. Now you need to deal with the consequences." Mark's face was flushed, and I could see the panic rising in his eyes. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand the pain you've caused," I said, my voice low but intense. "And I want you to think about how you would feel if the tables were turned. How would you react if someone did this to you?" "I never meant to hurt anyone," he said, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. "It was never supposed to go this far." "No, but it did," I said, standing my ground. "And now it's time for you to face the music." I pulled out my phone and showed him the folder I had compiled, screenshots of their messages, pictures that illustrated their intimate moments. His face went white as he scrolled through the evidence, the reality of his actions crashing down on him. "Look, I'll talk to Sarah," he said, his voice trembling. "I'll tell her it's over. I never wanted to hurt you." "It's too late for that," I said, stepping closer. "This isn't just about you or Sarah. You've impacted more lives than you can imagine. And I plan to make sure everyone knows what you've done." Mark's eyes widened, panic taking hold. "You wouldn't, you can't." "Oh, but I can," I replied, my voice steady and resolute. "And I will. I'll make sure your colleagues and her family know the truth. You will have to live with the consequences of your actions." As I turned to leave, Greg gave me a reassuring nod. "Let's go. We've got more to do." We stepped out of the building, the weight of what had just happened settling on my shoulders. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, mixed with the satisfaction of having confronted him directly. I had taken the first step in reclaiming my power, and now it was time for the next phase of my plan. That evening, as I sat with Greg at our usual bar, I could feel the thrill of what I had just done. I took a deep breath, my heart still racing. "Now it's time to expose Sarah," I said, determination settling in. "Are you ready for that?" Greg asked, leaning in. "Once you reveal everything, there's no turning back." "I don't care," I replied, my voice fierce. "She chose to betray me, and now she needs to face the music. I'm done being her scapegoat." Greg smiled, a sense of camaraderie building between us. All right then. Let's figure out how to break the news. As the night wore on, we strategized. We would gather her family and friends at a dinner, a facade of normalcy to mask the storm that would soon erupt. I wanted them to see the truth, to understand the pain she had inflicted, not just on me, but on everyone who loved her. Tomorrow, I'll start sending out the invitations, I said, feeling a mix of dread and exhilaration. And once everyone is there, I'll lay it all out. I'll show them everything. Greg raised his glass in a toast. To unmasking the truth. To unmasking the truth, I echoed, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. In that moment, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I was ready to take back control of my life, to expose the lies, and to face the consequences of Sarah's betrayal head-on. Tomorrow would be a day of reckoning, and I wouldn't shy away from it.